Welcome to Total Agent Access, where we interview the most inspiring real estate agents in the world to share with you the best advice from our brightest minds. With your host, me, Colin Bredner. Welcome back to the podcast. And today we have Jamie Wicks, who is the ISA, and according to Jason, the best ISA in the whole entire world. Today, you are with the Sims team in Nanaimo, British Columbia. Welcome to the podcast, Jamie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today, Colin. Always nice to connect with you.
Yeah, this is awesome. And to let everybody know, Jamie actually has helped me become better on the phone and thus helping my team become better on the phone, talking to clients and stuff like that. Whenever I have a question about, like, how would you say this? Or what if somebody said that? Jamie is always the first person that I go to and always has great text message that I can send or how to talk to them on the phone, which is a key part of this. So, tell us a little bit about your background first and how you got started as an inside sales agent.
For sure, yeah. Well, so I went to university for business. I did a business degree with management and marketing, and I always had an interest in real estate. And I remember one of the very first actual, introductions I had into real estate as a profession or just as an industry was when I was in university. One of my finance classes was a real estate class, and I found it just incredibly interesting. And at the same time, being a broke student, in the summers I was working delivering furniture and appliances up and down Vancouver Island for a furniture delivery company. So I was going into all these, beautiful homes and stuff like that, and just some of the pieces started coming together for me of having interest in maybe actually pursuing a career in real estate, because you go to school for business and you don't really know exactly what you want to do. You just kind of have a bit of a business mind or something like that, right? I actually have known Jason since I was probably about 10. So he's always been sort of like almost like a big brother to me. Him and my brother were very good friends growing up. So, and Freddie, of course, part of our team now as well, and also doing ISA. And so actually out of high school, before I went to university, Jason was actually one of my bosses in a call center at the time. And it was an American telecom company where you dealt with billing, and they had all these different things that to upsell your clients on these different products that you could sell people. And so I'm in there like 17 years old, and I just love being on the phones talking to people. It's something that I'm very comfortable with, is just socializing, talking to people. It's something I've never really been afraid of. I mean, I get nervous for sure, right? But it's something I've never been afraid of, talking to people. And so Jason actually got to see me kind of doing my thing on the phones back then and really thriving as one of the very top salespeople in that place within a couple months, and just this like 17-year-old kid in there. So, obviously he got to see a little bit about that side of me. He's always known me as a person, the kind of person I am. And so it was actually kind of interesting. After I graduated university, I had been working for Shaw for a while as a sales leader there and a sales coach at Shaw Communications, now Rogers. And so I spent a bit of time out there, and I kind of got to a point where I realized it wasn't a career that I was going to want to do there. And so I had sort of this like interim thing where I went into working in the oil fields in Alberta, which I'm very happy I did it, because I really got to experience other parts of Canada, kind of get to know what some of these people are moving to Vancouver Island, or moving from. A lot of people I connect with out there. Anyway, so long story short, I came back from working in Alberta, and I was kind of in the crossroads of what I was going to do. I was actually working at a local mill at the time, and had been in touch with Jason a little bit earlier, like when he first got started, probably about 6 months prior, about how things were going for him in real estate and the career stuff. And so he actually came to me. I was actually driving back from, not to be like to make it sad or anything, but I was driving back from a really good friend of mine's funeral. I was driving from Campbell River to Nanaimo, which is about an hour and a half drive, and Jason just kind of happened to call me and was like, "Hey man, I got a business opportunity if you want to talk about it." Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I got an hour and a half here. Like, go for it, right? So that's when he asked me if I wanted to jump into doing real estate and getting into this role that I had no idea what it was, an inside sales role, right? Manager role that we call it on our team. And to be honest, this is 8 years ago, 8.5 years ago, and I didn't know nothing about real estate. Like, I was very green in terms of real estate and the ins and outs of it and all those things. Um, but I was like, let's do it. Let's do it right there and then on the phone, just because I know Jason and, I believe in him and all the things that he does. Right. So that was how I got started in real estate. And I haven't looked back since, and I've been doing this now for, like I say, about 8 years.
Wow. Wow. That's a really good story. And it's really funny the paths that we take in life, how we start and where it sends us and where it ends up, and looking towards the future, it still continues to evolve. So let's talk about what are the primary responsibilities of an inside sales agent in a real estate team.
Yeah. So basically, our role is to identify and find and uncover opportunities, that are out there for creating relationships for our team members, our agents. That's really kind of like, I guess, in like a big picture of it, right? I mean, it's really prospecting. You're contacting people, you're connecting with people, and you're really working hard to find what those opportunities are that you have, and then for, as we know too, like when it comes to real estate, a lot of times when you're connecting with people for the first time, they're very, very early in the process. So, a lot of times with the people that I'm calling today, this morning, before we got connected here, these are people that are getting started on our website, or maybe, contacting us about something, but their timeline is like, a year, 2 years down the line, right? So part of the role is also being able to, identify what the opportunity is, what the timeline is for somebody, and then actually nurture that relationship for the time that it takes. And so there's lots of ways to do that. Obviously, we rely on different systems and tools and CRMs and things like that to help support us in that. But it's really, putting that effort forward every day and trying to connect with people, trying to create opportunities, and doing as much of that as you can, really, right? That's kind of the role of an inside salesperson. So if I was to define it, I would say that's kind of how what I'm trying to do every day. Just get connected with as many people as I can, and see what kind of relationships we can create.
Yeah, so real top of the funnel is where your role kind of sits, and then the outside sales agent or the realtor sort of sits down closer to the bottom. Now, how do you collaborate with the others on your team, such as those outside sales agents and the marketers in your team? Where do you fit into that all?
Yeah, it's actually, there's a lot to it, because it's not really I wouldn't say it's like a perfect, totally systemized thing. There's always different people that you're dealing with that have different preferences, or that maybe you connect with and more than others. And so like some people, the time that I spend with them is actually sometimes quite short before I might be, getting them introduced to more of one of our field agents on our team. And they kind of are taking over and running with it. And they just, really connect well with that agent. And they rely on me far less. So some of those can be, very, very short pathways to get to that agent, and it happens quickly. Some of them are people that I'm working with for like literally years before we end up in a situation where I'm handing that person over, I guess, so to speak, or doing what we often call a handoff, even though there's never really truly a handoff. We're actually still involved with supporting the agent that's working with them in the field every step of the way, all the way to the finish line. We're there to help collaborate and support.
And probably beyond too, right?
Beyond, yeah, absolutely. Often I'm following people, our past clients that we've worked with, and or they're reaching out to me, and a lot of them stay informed. They stay in the systems with like getting listings still, and they're we're interacting, they're getting market updates, all these things. So absolutely, it doesn't really end. It's not really a handoff as much as it is like an introduction, where we bring in another agent to kind of help move along. They're this person's kind of at a stage where that would be beneficial to them and in what they're doing for their research or things like that. So there's different ways that happens. Obviously, sometimes it can be very, very hard as well for the client that we're working with to kind of work through that handoff. As good of intentions as we all have and everything like that. Sometimes I've spent 3 years, 4 years talking to these people on and off, and sometimes we've had these like 45-minute calls, and a number of them, and really been very involved in kind of getting, being a resource to these people, and very supportive and giving them time and all the courtesies that we can along the way. So then when it comes to a point now, after a few years, it's like, hey, what? Now I'm going to be introducing you to Colin here. And Colin's actually going to be, taking and showing you homes. I learned very early on that that's something that it can be very difficult for people where they really like didn't want, they felt like it's like, oh no, I'm not going to be, you're not helping us anymore. It's like, no, I'm absolutely still helping you, but I'm just not the one, walking through the homes with you. This is kind of how our team works and provides this world-class service. Is you actually have two of us, and I am a licensed agent, and I'm just in this role. So they do have that sort of support with us. Sometimes there's different levels of ISA. Like ISAs, you can have, a lot of them are unlicensed, and so there's a little bit less that they might be able to do than I can in conversations and things like that. But that handoff is such an important thing. So what I've learned is that it's really important from the outset to set those expectations and educate the clients on how you work, how your team works together, how it really is a collaborative effort from the team to help people along the way. And where I'm most helpful and where they'll get a lot more of me is in those early stages. And that's where they can really lean on me to help them kind of get to, whether that's a year, 2 years, 2 months, whatever it is, right? And so that's kind of like, how it goes with these handoffs. It's a little all over the map, but the goal is not really to like hand somebody off and totally disappear.
Yeah.
There's obviously is a balance of where, from a business standpoint, the more that I can kind of like peel back a bit and allow that agent to just kind of take over and the trust and run with it, allows me to go and connect with more people and create more opportunities for us as a team and for just to keep business good, right? So it is a bit of a tricky balance where you don't want to get too deep sometimes into it either, right? And you got to start making those handoffs happen a little bit earlier.
Yeah, the people must grow attached to you, especially if their window is 2 to 3 years out and you've been faithfully contacting them and talking to them and building that relationship, and then all of a sudden, okay, these people, I'm going to hand you off to this other person. And
it is. It's a lot more than you realize too sometimes, right? Because the way that we develop a lot of our systems is like there is automations. There's things like that where people are getting maybe like market stat blast emails that go out to a whole bunch of people, but it's market stats, and there could be a video that I've made where I'm talking about something in it. And so they're seeing that video from me. There's text messages that like just casual check-ins that are, some of those are even automated, CRMs and things like that, right? And so it can be where like I don't even realize like all these touch points that I've had with people fully. Like I'm not seeing them in the moment that they're all happening. Like there's things that are kind of going out in emails and stuff like that are providing them with value and content and stuff. And I'm a part of a lot of those. So like for me, I might have only actually talked to these people on the phone, at the very outset and maybe a couple times along the way. And it's, a few conversations, but for them, they have this like, there's a lot more to it of the information that they've gotten from me. So that's where, sometimes it can be like where they can be very hesitant to want to be, see me kind of like fall into the background. So, and that's just where like me and the agent that I'm working with in the situation, just we collaborate a lot more. And we really make sure that we're doing a great job with our communication with the client, working together. I always try and give as much opportunities as I can in those situations for that agent to be able to step in and start building that trust and kind of getting that, role in the client's mindset as well, that they're trusted as an advisor. So I'd say that's kind of like a bit of the pros and cons that you're going to have to work through when you have people that do these types of roles. It's not that it's a con necessarily as much as it's just something that you have to have an awareness of and really kind of focus on making sure people know, how you operate early on and, how this is a benefit. Two realtors instead of one, or two people that they can count on for support at the very least, even if it's not two licensees.
Building that up really early in the relationship, right?
Yeah. Often in the very first call that I have with people, when I'm kind of going through the recap part of things and making some recommendations in that part there, I'll say, hey, I just want to take a moment and let you know just a couple things about our team and how we operate, being that I connected with you today. I want you to know this is kind of what you could expect in the future. If you do use our website, there's some great tools. You can request a tour if you want to have a look at a property and things like that. And by the way, if you do that, just this is how our team works. I would be coordinating with another one of my partners that's an expert in the area and really making sure that we're getting world-class service and all the information. So it's like it's propping people up on our team from the get-go, letting them know that like we have these amazing specialists that they're going to be able to be connected with depending on what route they take. Right. And I get to kind of help quarterback that for them and make sure they're always in good hands.
Yeah, and building that benefit in the client's mind that this is something that's really great and you want to be involved with that instead of the one agent does everything.
Yeah, and it is great. Like it really is actually truly great, right? And that's
I
like
agree.
something, yeah, like working with a team, collaborating and stuff like that. Like, and I'm sure in the past at some point in time you've probably worked on your own or had to do things where you are working very heavily with a client individually, and you have all these things going on. Like, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse with technology. People have access to information and communications so instantly, right? So, obviously, when you're working as say, an individual agent, you don't have somebody like this on your team. You're trying to do so much, and like these communications can be demanding at times and very important. And it is really important that there is timely responses, and that's where people really get that world class experience where it's really, it's not like, oh, you have a whole bunch of people that aren't really, you don't have one person, you've got a bunch of people. It's like, no, you actually have a team helping you. You have an army behind you to help make this an experience so that you don't either miss out on properties or you are getting timely information. If you're out with clients all day long, your clients deserve your attention and everything that you're putting behind that. Those clients aren't going to want to see you distracted trying to get back to somebody that you're also, you look at as a very important client. So having somebody like us, having somebody that can do that type of thing is really, really, it does create that amazing experience for people. And that's why I say it is really great. So it's not hard to get people excited about it, but it's just more something that you don't want to ever like leave out of things early on and make it a surprise down the line where they think that they're going to be working with you the whole time and then suddenly, because then it can kind of feel like, this guy doesn't want to
Abandonment.
work with me. Yeah, abandonment, right? This guy doesn't want to work with me. Instead, you set that expectation from the get go.
Yeah. So take us through a typical day in your working life. From the moment that you're set up, you're ready to start dialing.
Yeah.
When does that occur? Like what time of the day, of the morning?
Usually, I'm at my desk around. Well, I mean, the nice with nowadays with CRMs and stuff like that, they're with you everywhere you go. From the moment I like my day
Blessing and a
is
curse, right?
again a blessing and a curse. Yeah. So like my day, I wake up and I usually get up around like 5:15 in the morning. I like to go to the gym. I try and make that like at least a 3 to 4 day a week thing. I'm doing sometimes 5, less often 5, but I try to. And so it's something that like right from the get go though, I'm like, I'm getting up, I'm getting things ready, and I kind of like, I can't help myself but like have a peek at what's going on. So like, sometimes it's starting as early as that with just like, some of the lighter communication. Like I'm not obviously calling people at 5 in the morning, but I might be looking into something or gathering information or putting stuff into an email for somebody as I'm getting started. That's not an expectation by any means, right? But it's just how I kind of work, right? Like I understand, the more of these things that I'm doing, the better thing, the better outcomes are going to have in the long run. So, but like for, I would say just a normal day, like after I go to the gym and usually I get my kids to school and stuff like that, um, I can be at my desk often around like 8:30, getting going, like really getting going in the day. And sometimes that is calling from the get go. Sometimes I like to take the first like 30 minutes to get in my chair. I like to kind of go through some of my new leads and stuff like that I have in the database and just set up some searches and things like that real quick while I can. And, by 9 o'clock, I like to make sure that I'm starting to get dials out to our newest leads. I like to start with the newest leads that have come in through the night when I was sleeping or in the evening when I was with my kids, and then maybe I couldn't get to them, or we didn't have like AI or something like that was, trying to create connections. And so I'll jump in and I'll get to those people right off the bat and start calling our new leads. And speed to lead is an important thing, right? Like you have an opportunity, you have somebody, the sooner you connect with them, the better, because it's something that's on their mind right then and there. So the sooner that you do make that connection, the easier that conversation will be. From that point on, you're kind of chasing people to make this connection and show them the value that that you're going to bring to them. And that they'll probably receive pretty well. But if you can't get somebody on the phone, it's really hard to do that through just things like email, text, and video and all the things we have. It's still kind of difficult, right? So my day starts like right away. I want to start connecting with people, getting on the phone. I have an office. This is where I work at, office a lot of the time. I like it because I'm very social. If I'm in an office space, I can very easily get, locked into a conversation with somebody. I ask a bajillion questions of people. And so, we're sitting there and it's like, yeah, I wasn't on the phone for the last 30 minutes, or I wasn't, doing things that I want to be doing. And then I get behind and I feel stressed about it, right? So instead, I like to be kind of like in an area like this. I'm kind of on my own. I can just really, quiet, focus. I've got, sometimes like a little bit of music or something like that I have playing in the background, and just kind of get myself in the zone, nice and comfortable. Right off the bat, I'm hammering away at people. But we do have the office phone here too. So like the different inside salespeople on our team, we actually have it. So our business phone will ring here and I can answer it. So, there's a lot of these things that come into the day, like people calling into the office where I'm, fielding calls, whether it's about listings or people inquiring about maybe they want to do business with us, or, sometimes it's just me getting information off to other agents on our team, somebody calling about showing, requesting an agent, or like a lawyer, a law office or something like that, right? So there's like a lot of these things that come into the day. So what I really try to do is make sure that I have a bit of a plan from the get-go of how I want my day to go. It's hard to remain like in those pockets, but I certainly like to set up times where it's like I'm ignoring emails, I'm ignoring as much of the other things as I can, and just being in the pocket of calling people, calling leads for, a couple hours, and then I'll jump in and I'll do some more like non-phone activities. Those are things like where I see, people have been maybe favoriting properties or things like that on the website. I'll go and proactively try and make sure that I'm sending them a little bit more information on those things and showing them that there is more value behind the website and doing those types of activities, and just kind of, it's a nice way to kind of create some of these, like bridging the gap if we haven't connected with some of these people that are favoring properties, or showing support to people that we have connected with and that we're making sure they have everything. So, I'll build a couple of those types of activities into my day, but I really try and make sure that, if I'm at my desk for 8 hours, that I'm at least prospecting for like 5 to 6 hours of that. I want to be in situations where I'm actively working to either be connecting with new people, connecting with people I haven't talked to before, older leads, or I'm doing follow-ups with people that are important follow-ups that I have. So, task reminders that I set for myself to make sure that I remind myself, call this person again, or follow up with certain things that I should be doing. So it's never like necessarily that I have it set up exactly the same, but I definitely like to start the morning out and try and get people that are maybe haven't started. A lot of people start work in the afternoon and stuff like that. So I can see people are, actively using our websites, and I can focus on connecting with some of them as well as the brand new leads. And then maybe in some of the parts of the day where I find that I just, it's less busy on the website, I'll start focusing on trying to connect with some of those people that we just maybe never had success connecting with in our earlier attempts, or maybe they've been on our website for a while and still haven't been connected with. I'll work through some of those people. So it's kind of like, just the main thing is being focused, making sure that you're staying like, really focused on what you're doing, and knowing that you have a plan of who you kind of want to work on connecting with, right? So sometimes it'll be like, I want to connect with people from 3 to 6 months ago that signed up on our website that we haven't connected with. We haven't had a phone conversation yet. Today, I'm going to filter my database to those people, and I'm just hammering away, trying to connect with those people for the next hour. No distractions, nothing else, just going after it, right? And so, yeah.
How do you stay so motivated?
It's hard, man. It really is hard.
I bet.
Yeah, it really is. Especially, I would say after 8 years, because like imagine anything you do for 8 years, where it's quite repetitive, right? Like, it's the difference of like being in the field and stuff like that more often. Like you're walking through different homes every day. It's like you might see the same house a couple times in a couple months if it's been on the market, or if it relists down the road. But a lot of times you're going through new houses, you're meeting with different people. Like that's a lot of fun, and I enjoy like glittering that in a little bit because I am licensed. So I know for me, it's like if I just sit here in the chair nonstop all the time for 8 years and grind it out, it's like it's hard to keep that energy. So sometimes I do like to do some of those things, particularly if it's like people that I know are in my own personal sphere that are connecting with me and wanting to work with us. It helps kind of re-energize me, I would say, a little bit, because we're human, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're sitting in a chair, and I'm in this room, like I say, by myself. I try and have music, I have some things to kind of like keep my energy. I've got a desk that I can press the button, and as you can see, it starts going up, right? I should have done this earlier when we were trying to get me in the camera.
Yeah, there you go.
uh, but yeah, like, so I know, like, I try and set myself up for success, right? To have energy, it's so important to know, like, this is your station, man. This is your ammo, whatever you have here, right? I've got dual monitors. I've got my headset that's comfortable that you can see that I'm on. I use this for making my calls. I've got everything all connected so I can call right through. I can click on a number. It goes to my headset and I call through, through the
Do
systems.
you make your calls standing up or sitting down?
Both, because I get a little bit tired standing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that old, but I'm 38. It's like, it's hard to just be on your feet all day long. I'm not like a young guy I was working in the oil fields, but I definitely don't like to just sit for long periods of time either. And I find that, like, what I actually end up doing is I lift up I get my when I'm standing, I start to, like, walk around in here, right? I'm talking to people and I'm kind of moving, and I'm like, I get so distracted out of that I'm like into that call and that connection. And
Right.
so I love that. I love to kind of create that energy. We always talk about, like, the 3-2-1 smile and dial type of thing, right? Like, it sounds corny, but, like, that's the stuff that I do, right? Like, a smile, dial a number, take a deep breath, be ready, like, here we go, right?
I
And then
say
I
that
bring the
all the
energy.
time with my
Yeah.
team. I'm like 3-2-1.
Yeah.
3-2-1.
Go. Yeah. Don't get
Smile
in your
and
head.
dial.
Right? Like, and I don't do a lot of, like, if I have a new lead profile of somebody that I'm going to be connecting with, I try not to, like, analyze too much about it. It's just like, I got a number, calling, doing what I'm doing. And I know how I want to, like, have that conversation and how I'm going to go through it. I've done it so many times. So, just having an awareness of those things, having an awareness of what your distractions are too is important, because there's just so many distractions, right? And so, being aware of those things and knowing kind of how to block your time, and not always be like 100% people pleaser, because you got business to take care of too. Like, you got to really kind of focus on those things. So like, those are things that help me, I guess, stay motivated, because they allow me to do a better job when I'm in here, when I have myself set up for success. And the best thing to motivate you is having a great phone call with somebody, right? So, like, if if you're making calls and it's not going so well, a couple people hang up on you or tell you where to go or whatever, like, those things are going to happen. It can really be like, okay, this isn't going well today, right? Like, this isn't a great day. But you get one person on the phone that you really have a great connection with, a great call, you really actually truly bring value to them, and you know that, like, they're benefiting from it. You're having a great conversation with these people too. That's what I like. That's what motivates me, is to have another one of those and have another one of those, right? Just kind of keep finding those opportunities. It's almost like a golden nugget in a game or something, right? And but the reality is that every call you make, you have an opportunity to meet, like, one of your best clients that you could have in your life, right? And these could be people that, like, that next dial you make could be somebody that you literally become friends with, or that for the next 50 years or whatever. Like, it's that possible, right? So if you have the right mindset about it, that helps you stay motivated, I think, too, right? Just always seeing that there's opportunity out there and that there's a lot of amazing things, instead of being in a mindset of like, oh, this is going to be hard. I'm going to be calling people that don't want to talk to me necessarily, or not ready to talk to me. And I'm going to get pushback. I'm going to get objections. I'm going to get, a lot of, like, walls up too. If you dwell too much on that, it's going to be hard to be motivated, especially doing it for as long as I have, right? So
For sure.
So I'm not kidding when I say it's not easy to stay motivated, but I think for me, one of the things that keeps me motivated is the fact that I'm on a team and I'm part of something bigger than myself. Something like, even just, like, not to go too hard into, like, the brokerage stuff or whatever, but being part of, like, what we do with the whole EXP thing, and, like, how you and I have been connected, right? Like, that's happened through this, right? And so, like, that's happening all the time for us. And, the more that I can kind of, like, make happen for people around me too, that's motivating for me. I love when I have an opportunity to send a referral your guys' way from opportunity on our website or something like that. I love it. Absolutely. Right. And so
We do too, Jamie.
absolutely.
Girls.
Yeah. Right? So, but I think that's part of it too, is like, it's so easy to, it's like the gym thing too, right? Like, you can easily be like, I don't want to get up and go to the gym today, because if you don't have, like, an accountability, or if you're not part of, like, a group setting in that, it's so easy to just kind of let yourself off the hook, right? And so that happens. Whereas like with the gym thing, we started a little group where we kind of hold each other accountable. We have our own like WhatsApp chat and stuff like that. And it's been keeping me going because I'm like, I don't want to let these guys down. It's like, I'm not letting anybody down. They're like, I'm not letting them down really, but it's like, it's how you feel in your head, right? That
Yep.
keeps me motivated to go. It's the exact same thing in this role. I've got a lot of people that I make a difference in their lives, at their families' lives. If I'm succeeding at what I'm doing, they're succeeding and vice versa, right? And so I think that's like one of the things that really helps keep me motivated, and one of the benefits of a real estate team and having people in these roles is like, it's not just like it's not just a money thing. Like money's a great motivator for sure, because we all need it to survive, kids and stuff like that. So obviously that is one of the motivators, but it's not like really, that to me is not as big as the doing something together with the group of people that I'm with, and like us all doing really well together. So those are things that personally keep me motivated. I guess it just depends what your fabric is, right? And
Yeah.
what kind of person you are. Yeah.
Yeah. But belonging to something that's bigger than you I think is essential. And
I've always been more of like a team sport type of person. Like I'm not like the guy that would be, I love golf, but I would never be like, oh, I'm going to go and do a season of golf on my own. Like that would never happen. But get me on like a hockey team, a dodgeball team, like a ball hockey team, like any kind of team thing where it's like we're doing this together. 100%, I'm into that, right?
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and just different personalities.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Sure.
What do you think are the key skills that are essential to the success of an inside sales agent?
I would say if there was one thing, is a person that has like a genuine curiosity or interest in helping people. Like that has to be part of who you are, right? Like Jason will tell you, if I end up in a room with somebody, it just starts to naturally happen where suddenly I'm almost like, it's not like it's so much of an interview as much as it's just like I'm genuinely excited to get to know a little bit about the person that I'm meeting, right? It's the same thing on the phones for me. So I think if you have that, if that's like part of who you are, that's a great skill to have. Or if you're looking to bring somebody in, if you can identify that about them, like if they have a natural ability to have a curiosity to ask questions, especially like open-ended questions that help you get to know this person, then that's one of the best skills that a person could have, right? Because you can learn so much. You can learn about real estate. You can learn about, legal things. You can learn all the stuff that goes along with real estate. When it comes to connecting and creating relationships, there's different types of personalities, and some are going to be stronger at, building the rapport and creating these relationships than other people that maybe are maybe like more introverted and stuff, right? So I'd say like that would be one of the things. I actually helped do a little bit of like, I helped the people in the past kind of like help find somebody for one of the activities I said to do is like just pretend you're on like a date or something, right? Like do that as a role play with somebody. I know it sounds weird, but like do it as a role play of like, in your interview. Maybe this is like not good for HR, right? But if you can have somebody like if I was meeting somebody for the first time, like you would start asking them questions about kind of getting to know them and like who they are, and like if you would really ever see yourself maybe going on a date with this person, right? Or like if it's like a friend, a person that you're meeting, like you're like, I wonder if I'd ever hang out with this person again. Like you're going to start asking some questions. You're going to get to kind of like know a little bit about the person. So if you're somebody that can incorporate that into maybe a job interview with somebody and just have like a real normal conversation and see what kind of just natural open-ended questions that person might be asking, I think that would be a great way to identify how somebody might do in a role like this, because you do have a lot that just kind of happens sort of off the cuff, right? We have our scripts, we try and control our calls and kind of the flow of the call, and we know like these really great questions that are in all the scripting that we all talk about and that we share with each other and we learn with each other. But there's still situations where when you get into that conversation and you start like going down the path, you start having like these not just real estate conversations, but just like real conversations with people. And it's very common where like I'm on the phone and I'm getting to know people, just who they are and what's going on in their life and all these things. And then it's like, oh, maybe we should get to actually like the real estate thing for a minute. right? But that's
I
like,
think that's essential, though, that you
yeah,
get deep with people, right? It's not wide, it's deep. Get deep
yeah,
with less people
yeah,
and
exactly. I would
create
say
those
it's,
real, genuine relationships. I think that is
yeah,
key.
it's about having conversations with people, right? And not just an interview or like order taking is what I always say, right? Is like, you don't want
Yep.
to be like calling people and being like, you're taking an order for what you're putting into the website for them. You want it to be an actual conversation. You want to have questions that you're asking people that are going to help you have that kind of conversation. And then don't feel like you have to stay 100% on script all the time, because if you do, you're going to miss some of those opportunities that you do get to build those deeper connections with people by just having the confidence of like, if I'm asking a certain question and you tell me something about yourself or your family or things like that, that I want to like explore that more. I want to talk about that. Tell me more about that. Right? Like, tell me a little bit more about, what got you into sailing or something, right? Like, that's really interesting. I don't sail, because any kind of thing, right? Or tell me about your pets. What made you choose to have that kind of pet, right? You could simply ask, what kind of dog do you have, and leave it at that. Or, oh, okay, interesting. Well, tell me more about why you went with that breed of dog. Or how did that happen for you, right? Like, it's kind of like having follow up questions, and you just get these really amazing conversations happening with people, and it doesn't feel like you're like sitting here doing something that is like uncomfortable for people, where you're like just taking this order for them, putting it on
Yeah.
the website, and it's like not a great interaction for them. Instead, you end up having these good conversations, and you might have more quality over quantity at the end of the day. But it's like, that person walked away being like, that was a nice conversation. I have a lot of people that at the end of the time, like our phone call starts out about the real estate website and stuff like that. At the end of the time, they're thanking me like, hey, I really like, thank you. Like, it was really nice to like chat with you and share some of this stuff, right? And it's like, to me, that's an amazing thing to hear back, right? Is like, okay, we did good on this one, right? They're actually thanking me for calling them today. It's like, that's usually not how things are going in the first 15 seconds of this call. They're not thinking
Yeah.
about thanking me. They're thinking about telling me where to go a lot of the time, right?
Yeah. They're thinking in the first 15 seconds, how the hell can I get off the
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah. I got to talk to this guy, right? Like, you got
Yeah.
some people that are excited right off the bat to tell you, and they're into it, right? But like a majority of people, they're thinking like, oh, I get off the phone. So to
Yeah.
get to the end of the call, and you're like having somebody thanking you, or like asking to like take your number and stuff like that to be able to call you again and stuff like that. That's where you're like, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and that fills the cup and keeps like we talked about motivation, and that's where it is, right? Like that fills the cup and keeps you moving forward. So, can you share any training or resources that have been particularly beneficial for you?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we'd always Jason's awesome. He's what's great about Jason on our team, and for anybody who knows him, is it's not that you're like, it's like you're doing role plays and doing things like that. It's not that what you're doing wrong. It's just like opportunities to see what, like, how it's going to go for you in real life when you're having these conversations, right? And you pick up on little things. So what we used to do is we would just sit in our office, and we go back to back in our chairs, and we would just, do role play situations, maybe like different parts of a call, or just like a call from front to back. We do things like that. Like, that was really helpful for me. It seems like, oh, this isn't like sometimes it can feel like, what are we doing here? But it's like, it is really helpful, actually. I really, really thought that was good. And then for me, just being that, like, I'm having conversations with people, I'm asking questions of people all day long. Some of the things that I really like doing is just kind of doing sort of like mind mapping activities, where I would take like, who, what, where, when, why, how, those ones. And I know these are like the key kinds of questions that I want to ask. And if you're talking to somebody about the real estate journey, like who's involved, what are they looking for? Why? What's the motivation of the move? These are all like actually really amazing questions. Who, what, why, when, time frame, right? How's it going to happen? What happens when you find the right place? What's the next things? All these types of questions, what I would do is I would take like a piece of paper, and I would just put, who, and then I write down some questions that I might ask around, different ways I might ask that kind of question of like, who would be involved in the move. And then what I would do is I would write like all these different ways I could think of that people might answer them. Or if I was like on a call and somebody answered it in a new way that maybe I hadn't really written down, I'd write that down as like a next part to it. And then I would be like, okay, well, now how would I follow up with that normally, right? And I just started kind of creating like little maps for myself that I could kind of like just sit there and look at this, like at my piece of paper and, kind of get familiar with them. I did this early on, right? As I was, still newer to having these conversations, I would say, but it was so helpful for me because now I kind of was able to really know a majority of what was probably going to come back to me in these different questions that I'm asking and know how I want to follow up with them. So I was really able to start controlling, how the conversation went, but also still bring really good, impactful and efficient questions so that I could have, you talking a little bit more in the conversation, Colin, and really, really getting to get you to open up on these calls and then, be able to continue to roll with that and not like kind of hit these dead spots in the call where you're like, what do I want to ask next, right? And I would sit. This is just different, but I often have stickies, and I just put them like on the wall, or I'll put them just on my on my computer or right in front of me, just like who, what, where, when, why, how. It's one of the things that I always have sitting in front of me, just as a reminder. So like as I'm moving through calls, I don't have all these mind maps in front of me anymore, because I've done these calls so many times and like I've kind of moved through and I know how I'm going to move through these different conversations and different responses I get. But I still like to have the who, what, where, when, why, how in front of me, just because it's like, okay, maybe we've been talking about something for a little bit. Well, let's move on to this one. Right? Let's talk about that. Let's
get the conversation back on track, right?
Yeah. People only have so much time that they can really spend with you, right? So like you still got to be able to take that off, like the awesome responses you're getting in a conversation, and then roll right into I really appreciate you sharing all this with me, Colin, but let's just imagine, a great property comes up, what's going to be your next step? How are you going to make this move happen? How do you expect that to go? Right? Something very open-ended. We can continue to move through and I can kind of, have a good idea of what kind of responses I might get in that situation. Oh, well, we'd probably need to go talk to our bank, or, oh, well, we'd probably contact you about going and seeing the home. Right. And there's a variety of these types of responses that you're going to get to a question like that. And so,
and that's actually a really good question to ask, instead of, grilling them on, have you been to the bank? Like, I hate saying stuff like that because it's, especially on your first call where maybe it's a little bit too personal, but saying, hey, if this is the house for you, what would your next steps be? And then if they say, well, we should get approved at the bank, and then you can talk, okay, well, it's probably better to get pre-approved before we go and look at it so that we can make it a little bit more of a seamless transaction. And that, what if you don't get approved? And the heartbreak of losing a house, right?
And I think that's like, it kind of comes back to just in this role. And it's not like this is like just an inside salesperson world. This is every realtor world. Like this is just, I'm just doing stuff that every realtor should be doing, right? It's just obviously you get busy, you're showing clients and stuff like that. And, you got a business to run. So there's a reason why this role exists and why it happens, right? But the reality is like every real estate agent should be carving out at least a few hours a day, or at least a week, to be doing these types of things. It shouldn't be something, even if you're on a team that has people that like me, you should still be doing this, right? It's only going to help you have better conversations when you do have tough conversations with your clients, because you're going to get really good at controlling different conversations and how they go and having the right questions that you want to ask at the right times, right? Like those activities are not necessarily like mind mapping and stuff. You could do that in any part of the business or any, sequence of a transaction of like, maybe you're dealing with a seller that has an offer that isn't going how you want it to go, or they're reacting to it in a way, there's so many ways that you could bring in these types of things, but you have to get really good at knowing those nuances and communication that we have, particularly when you're talking on the phone with people. And it's not like us where we see each other right now and we have all those extra levels of how communication works, like body language and like, everything that we see. When you're on the phone, it's like a lot of it is your energy, your tone of voice, how you're asking questions, how you're mirroring the people that you're talking with and like kind of keeping with their pace, getting a feel for their energy and stuff like that, right? There's certain times, certain calls where it's like, I know I probably shouldn't ask this question right now about I would never be like, hey, okay, Colin, so, and have you been pre-approved? You'd never really hear me ask that question. If I did, I'd be like, oh my God, what did I just do? Like, how did that come out? How did that happen? Right. But like, It would be, cause you're right. Like there's certain things that you want to maybe I might be like, hey, Colin, and do you mind telling me a little bit more of how have you determined your budget? Right. Okay. And have you had a chance to speak with a mortgage specialist to confirm your budget? Stuff like that. It's just like, such a softer way of getting the information, or giving people an opportunity to talk and tell you what they've done. Like, how have you determined your budget? The way you might answer that question is very open-ended. I could get everything I need without ever having to ask you if you're pre-approved, because if you've done it, you'd be like, oh, well, I went and spoke to my mortgage broker. We gave him all our documents and everything like that. And this is the number that he told us. Great. Okay. Like, we don't need to spend too much time on that. Like, I understand where you're at with that. Right? Let's talk about the next thing then. Okay. So, it sounds perfect. You've done some really great work on getting yourself prepared for when the right property comes along. Now, obviously, we're going to be sending you listings. The next step is, tomorrow you might see an amazing listing that's really checking the boxes. What's going to be the next step you take there, right? We can start asking, some of these softer questions, instead of being like, here's what I think you should do all the time, and like always making, recommendations without getting all the information. Allow people to kind of put it on a plate for you in a way, right? And you can do that with really set up questions and kind of knowing how you want to move through the conversations. And I promise you, if you're doing like the who, what, where, when, why, how, it's very basic stuff. It's not groundbreaking by any means, but you'd be surprised that when you're on the call and you're talking to people, how much you actually don't do that if you don't really have it there in front of you. How you find yourself making maybe like asking questions with an assumption in them, or like very more closed-ended questions, like a lot more yes/no questions, and then you're like trying to fight your way back into like an open-ended question again, right? So, just having those types of things is going to make you, whether you're an inside salesperson, whether you're an agent that's doing some prospecting, or even following with somebody that you're working with. Like, these are questions that you want to get comfortable with.
Yeah, it should never feel like an interrogation. I always think of the old spy movies with the room with the light on, the single light pointing right down and interrogating people. It should be much more of a friendly conversation and not be like, have you been to the bank? Like, that's the worst way to do it,
I think one of the ways to avoid an interrogation is to actually really focus on separating yourself from expectations and an outcome, right? Obviously, like, there's things that we need to accomplish if we're going to have a relationship, and there is a goal when we're connecting with people to make that happen. But I'm okay if it doesn't happen. I have to be okay that, like, if this person's not working with us, like, that's okay. We're going to figure that out, right? But if there's an opportunity there, I want them to see the value. And that might not be me doing this interrogation and like forcing them into a meeting with us very early, right? Or, what I mean? Like, sometimes the first call, all it really needs to be is setting up a couple tools for them to have success, and setting up, success for yourself of being able to connect with them again in the future for your, whether it's a month from now, 2 months from now. There is a process for a lot of these people. And I think that's where one of the things that kind of gets you to another level is not losing people by being like too forward, but also not being too passive and missing opportunities that are there for you. Like, it's quite a balance, right? It's hard sometimes too, and having to like pick up on these things when you're talking to people and asking the questions on, do I make a recommendation? Do I suggest that we get together for a meeting or a meeting with our team yet? Or is it still kind of better to maybe like let this simmer a little bit and keep providing value to this person? Slow play. Yeah. Like, I think there's a lot of value in connecting with people early in the process and having meetings and all those things too. But like, even then, the expectations around those things have to be realistic of what and very transparent and what you're offering to people. Like, hey, we're meeting without an expectation of you buying a home in the next 3 months or 6 months. Like, we're meeting to help set you up for success for when you purchase your home in 12 to 18 months from now, if everything goes as you're planning. And that could change. Right? That could change either sooner or later, or you may not make a move at all. So if we can separate ourselves from the expectations of things and really come at this from like, okay, my first goal is to make sure that the person has what they want from us, which is, if they're a website lead, they want listings. That's the number one thing, right? So I'm trying to connect with them, make that an amazing experience for them, a better experience than any other website they can be on. right? Because then we have the opportunity to over time continue to nurture and build a relationship and show our value. If I can't keep them around on our website, using our website at the beginning and seeing the value in it, well, it's going to be a lot harder for me to have them ever want to work with our team and have us represent them in one of the biggest transactions of their lives, which we know will do an amazing job for them. And we're always coming from a great place, but it's hard to sometimes get that across in 5 to 10 minutes that you might get with somebody you've never talked to that's in their mind 2 years away from making a move into a house, right? So, the goal sometimes is just as simple as creating a good experience for them with the website that they're going to be using for the next 2 years. And those things will start falling in place, and we can talk about, how that's going to happen. So
yeah. Working with you really changed my mindset over that first initial phone call, because for many agents, that first phone call, let's say the lead comes in through a website, whatever it is, that first phone call is very, very daunting. And why am I phoning this person? And a lot of them go about it the wrong way. But the way you always frame it being, hey, I'm just setting you up for success on our website. I'm not selling you anything. I'm just going to set you up on our website is much softer. Now, could you sort of run us through, lead comes in, run us through that initial phone call?
Yeah. So what I would be doing is reaching out to you. Hey, Colin, this is Jamie here from Sims Real Estate Group. I was reaching out to you today because you had signed up on our website to receive the listings for here in Nanaimo. And what I'm doing is just making sure that you have a good experience with those. I'm going to add a couple of filters today for you so that when we send you those listings, we're not including too many that waste your time. Can I ask you, Colin, what has you starting to look at these listings, right? So, I would just start with something like that, right? Like very easy, setting up the website, and then we'll go through a conversation, right? And so it's very soft. It's very, very, very easy for somebody like
non-salesy.
Yeah, it's like I very rarely have people like I will get people. Oh, I was just, it made me sign up. Or you get these different things, right? That we know we're going to get, and we're ready for those too.
Yeah, smoke
screens and stuff like that, right? A lot of people just want to tell you that. Hey, absolutely, thanks for sharing that with me, Colin. I really appreciate that. In fact, you know what? Most people on our website in the exact same boat as you, planning for the future, wanting to keep an eye on some things, and that's what's going to be great about this amazing website that you've got set up and that we're customizing for you today. So to do a better job of that, let me ask you, which areas are you most interested in? We can keep moving through. Usually, we'll just get right through that, right? And we'll be having a conversation. Okay, great. They just have to get that off their chest, right? And I would too. When I go into a store and somebody comes up to me and I'm like there to maybe buy something, but I don't need anybody yet. I can do this on my own, right? I don't really need help. But then when you're like, hey, you know what? Here's a couple things though. I'm just going to make this a little bit easier for you. I'm I'm like, oh, damn. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you don't even know, like most consumers don't even know the tools that are available. In their minds, you're phoning to sell them something, but really
that's the first thing in their mind. Yeah.
You're only phoning to help them. And the way you dealt with the objection of I'm only browsing, which is like on our website, that's our number one objection that we get. And, you just deal with it so well. And you just say, hey, that's okay. It's actually a national pastime for a lot of people. What areas of Prince George are you keeping your eye on?
And Sue on our website's been just browsing listings for 8 years, and it's great. So you're right. It is it's like, it is a hobby for a lot of people, right? And but yeah, I think it's just like having that right mindset about it, the energy, like, just being comfortable and confident, knowing that you're probably going to have somebody tell you that, and then moving through that with confidence, and them feeling that, like hearing that in your voice, that you're, that's like, oh yeah, great, okay, they understand, they acknowledge that, but they're still trying to bring me some value, and yeah, this is probably going to that'd be probably pretty nice actually, that have the right listings coming to me by email and not too many that are wasting my time, because I get enough emails, right? Like that's what starts going on in your head. All of a sudden, it's not this guy trying to sell me something, it's him trying to make sure I have a good experience with something that I signed up for, that I actually wanted. Right. And then it's a whole different game there, right? Like it's a whole different conversation you're having with somebody, which flows into the realities of things, right? Once you start getting a little bit more rapport in that conversation, it's a lot different.
Future pacing it as well is fantastic, because most people I'm only browsing and I'm not looking to buy or sell. Okay, but you're here, you're looking at stuff. Why are you looking at stuff without asking them why you're looking at stuff? And then you get it out of them that maybe they're retiring in a couple of years. Fantastic. It's really great that you're on our website today. This is what I can do for you.
And when you do have those conversations and then, they start asking you questions, then you start being able to give them like really meaningful answers that are actually, maybe clearing up a question that they had in their mind or something that they were uncertain about or they didn't know how it worked. And all of a sudden it's like, boom, you're elevating yourself in the middle of that call, right? And so I think you're right. Like the biggest thing that we all do when it comes to any type of industry where we're calling people, and I always say this isn't cold calling, because it's not, right? Cold calling is like going into a phone book and finding a number and calling somebody and seeing if they want to buy a vacuum from you, right? It's like, no, I don't need a vacuum, right? But like somebody signing up on your website to receive real estate listings because that's something that they actually went and seeked out and you're contacting them about, that is not a cold call. It's actually a pretty warm call. It's just something that they may not feel completely ready to talk to somebody. And a lot of times the people that you're calling are actually very courteous, and they feel like that they don't want to waste your time. They're actually trying to be courteous of your time. Just in general, I'd say us as Canadians, it's kind of part of us, right? It's like we're very apologetic.
I was going to say that. I was like, yeah, that's just a Canadian trait, right? Like we're courteous and kind people.
Yeah, right. I know, no, you shouldn't be wasting your time. You don't understand. Like I'm years away. You're amazing, but like don't waste your time on me. I'm 6 months away, and I feel like it's like that's like such a long time, and that we shouldn't be wasting their time or our time on them. They don't deserve it or something. It's like
and
not
for us,
all, right?
a 6 month window is very, very small.
Very small, right? 2 years, I'm like, yeah, hey, no problem, right? Like, so I think it's what we do is we always get in our own head. If you're having an issue calling people and making calls and your delivery and stuff like that, it's usually you in your own head getting in your own way, the drunken monkey thing and all that, right? It really is, because I promise you that's the only thing standing in the way of you having these great conversations with people and people being very receptive of you actually reaching out and connecting with them. I can say that after I don't know how many, probably tens of thousands of calls I've made in the last 8 years, like people are way happier to hear from you and way more appreciative of the call than you would think, especially early on, right?
Yeah.
You get more comfortable as you get more knowledgeable on different things, and you get more confidence in yourself as a realtor, especially if you're like a newer realtor, right? But the fact that you actually calling means a lot to people. It really does, right? Like there's certainly people that are not going to they're not going to tell you that, or they may not actually appreciate it, but there's a ton of people that you connect with that genuinely just are over the moon appreciative of the fact that you took your time to do that for them and that you've put some energy forward for them. That means everything to them. I've had people that I've only connected with maybe one time on the phone, and they've been on our website for a long time. They really didn't want like much in the way of follow-ups and stuff like that. But the one call I made and the time I took and set up some things for them and a little bit of like emails and texts and stuff they've got to them is fantastic. Like that's just exactly what they wanted and appreciated. And they reach out to me and they're like, hey, you know what? We want to see this, or we're ready to do something. You've been so great. Right? And it's like, yeah, it's like, thank you. Right. I appreciate that. But and you know what I mean? So like, I always say that the people that are on your websites and the people that you don't hear from, it's easy to be like, man, I've dropped the ball on this person. I haven't heard from them. But sometimes the people that you hear from the least are the people that are the happiest. The people that aren't, saying a lot to you are the people that are actually happiest, and they're coming back to your website and they're getting value out of everything you do. And it's amazing because you contact them and then you have like a follow-up call and they're thanking you for all these things that you're doing for them and like how fantastic it's been and how much they appreciate everything. And you're like, wow, okay, this is unreal, right? And they'll tell you maybe about a video that they watched that you did, and you're like, oh, you saw that? Okay.
Yeah. That's
cool,
great.
right?
Yeah. So I think that's a really good jumping off part where we're at the hour mark.
Sure.
I think I've got to maybe about the quarter of the questions that I wanted to ask you today.
That's my fault.
Yeah, hey, that's okay, man. That's okay. I think we can definitely do a follow-up podcast, because a lot of what you're talking about is great resource for a lot of agents just either getting into or wanting to improve their communication with their clients, with any leads that they get and anything like that. Is there any final thoughts or insights you'd like to share with our listeners before we jump off?
No, not really. I would say, just believe in what you're doing and think about, how you can set yourself up for success. And if you're doing the things to help yourself level up in some of these areas that we're talking about, because they will have a dramatic impact on your business if you are a realtor, of course, right? And so if you're currently not doing those types of things, then definitely, connect with people like us that are doing this. And we're always here to help people grow their businesses, like level up, get more skilled at these things, get more confident. Obviously, we've collaborated a lot, right? So anybody that's kind of in that mindset, maybe hearing these types of things and know that there's opportunity, they can maybe get a little bit sharper at these things, or maybe just want to kind of be part of it all to see kind of what it's like, then get connected with somebody like Colin or us, right? Like whatever.
Yep.
We're here to help and help
reach out anytime. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
With me? Well, you can always get me. Probably the easiest way would be by email, because I'm on the phone all the time. So
you'll never get through.
You'll get a lot of voicemails there, right? But just Jamie at simsrealestate.ca. Jamie is Jamie, Sims Real Estate, SIMS realestate.ca. That'll go to my inbox. So probably hear from me.
Beautiful. Excellent. Jamie, it's always great to connect. And you put the two of us together, and we could probably turn this into a 3-hour podcast. But we won't today.
Like a series, right?
Yeah.
Make a series out of it.
That's what I think. I think we should do a series, like maybe once a month or something like that. We can connect and talk about talking to people. So anyways, I'll let you get back to the phones and connecting with your, and I wish you all the best. And thanks so much for jumping on here today.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. I hope you have a good rest of your day too.
I will. Take care, Jamie.
Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to Total Agent Access. Head on over to iTunes, hit subscribe. While you're there, leave us a review. 1 star is okay, but 5 stars is even better.